So you don't have to be amazing. That's what I always tell people. You have to have the right tools. That's it. It's about the tools. If you want to build a house, you need the hammer, you need the saw, you need some things, right? It's the same here. We're going to help someone transform. Well, we need the tools for that. It's not about you or how amazing you are. It's about your tools.
Welcome, friends. I'd like to introduce you to a close friend of mine. His name is Guillermo Molano, and he is a well-known, well-respected NLP coach, and I always respect his opinion, and I learn a lot from his scholarly side. And so I thought we'd get him here from his home in Costa Rica and ask him a few questions about his take on the mind and healing and the body. And without further ado, Mr. Memo, how are you?
Hi, John. Thank you for having me on. Nice pronunciation in Spanish. Your Spanish has gotten good. It's great.
I watch all my movies now in Spanish.
Great. I can see that. Yeah, thank you for having me on. This is fun.
It is fun. Yeah.
There's some tea, some friends.
That's right. That is the way to heal and to learn. Using the mug that I got, this was one of the very first donations I ever received when I decided to start the Snake and Turtle channel, and I had nothing. I didn't have cool shirts or swag or a fancy backdrop, but thanks to Memo, I started with a mug.
Completely forgot that I gave you that mug. That's great. I have to say I have pretty good taste.
Memo. You do have good taste. And so tell us a little bit about NLP, because most people, I think, won't know what that is.
Sure. NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and it's a set of tools that we use to work with the mind, mental, emotional, body. And it's a set of practical tools that we can use to heal traumatic memories or work with limiting beliefs. A lot of people have difficulties like beliefs or attitudes, even when they're non-conscious, like I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy or things like that. There are many. Money is scarce in the world, or it's hard to get, things like that. Many beliefs. And attitude, people pleasing, procrastination, so many things, right? So we use these tools. This is NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is comprised of a set of tools that we can use, excuse me, to work with the person and help them overcome these limitations. Mm-hmm.
That's super helpful. And how did you get started in NLP? I think it's a really good story because maybe I can tell people that you and I were living in Costa Rica, and Memo and I, for many, many years, were running clinics together, from regular clinics in doctor's offices to donation clinics up in the mountains for the community. And we had discovered that a huge aspect of that which kept people from healing was their mind, because we had learned that we could treat just about anything. We could treat headaches and pain and all kinds of things, but then we couldn't figure out how to get people to care or how to get them past the idea that they weren't able to heal. And so many of their issues were completely continued because of this limiting belief, because they were obstructed inside and we couldn't figure out how to help them. And so we started learning more and more about these amazing tools and how we could work with them, whether it was just the way we talked about something or the body language was especially important for me because I'm a bit blind to body language. And more you got into it and you became an expert, and this was what you wanted to do. And so it was wonderful to watch you master this whole side of healing. And even within that circle, it seems like you've developed some specialties. Do you mind talking a bit about that and how you got into it?
Sure. That's great to remember all that. I remember, so exactly what you described. We always had this difficulty with clients sometimes telling us, can you heal my traumas? And I was like, I can't. I cannot do that with the tools that I have, with TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. And I remember I had studied some NLP in the past, but like always, it was just nothing useful because that's most of the training and most of the books of NLP are just not useful. They're just theory. And I remember you were the one that said like, we should look into this. And you started looking into it. And I was like, this is interesting. I should go back because I was a little bit discouraged because in the past I couldn't learn anything practical. And I really got into it, and I had lots of traumatic memories, lots of limiting beliefs, feelings of not being worthy, not good enough, all the whole thing, the whole deal. And so to get better and to learn properly, I started applying them on myself, and they changed my life. They changed me completely. They started changing the way I saw the world, and I just started feeling more relaxed. I healed my traumas. I overcame my limiting beliefs. I was not good enough, not worthy, and not smart enough, and things like that. And I started, just feeling more relaxed and okay and spontaneous and things like that, and happy. And I said, this is amazing. I have to extend it to other people. This is incredible. Why isn't everyone doing this? And so, I started studying, and we started studying together a little bit, but I just was one that I just dove into it so much. And
Which is how you do things.
Yes, exactly. I don't believe in half knowledge. So just don't believe it. So
I remember that you sort of disappeared for a whole season, or like just learning and processing, and you came out completely different than when you went into this cave of study. It was
exactly. It was literally a retreat of months, just studying 8 hours a day and just doing nothing more, maybe 10, 12 hours a day, and just would wake up, study. I'm hungry, eat something, and wake up, keep going. And maybe I have to go to the bathroom, and then keep going. And I was just, it didn't even feel difficult. It was just like, incredible. And that's how I got started. It was fun.
That's super fun.
And you started it, but thank you.
and it really did help me. And I've applied a lot of at least the basic level understanding to clinical practice and what I've worked with. And it really has transformed a lot of what I've done, especially in light of the last 10 years of Taoist study. So much of it lines up about the nature of the relationship between the mind and the body, the nature of the relationship between how we think about ourselves, the nature of the self, and these more esoteric principles. But it's all the same. Like it's being uncovered from different angles. And with this specifically clinical angle that you've got going on, it's wonderfully helpful to people, which is why I'm hoping more people tune into it and make part of it. Whatever method of healing they're using, even if they're not using NLP specifically the way you do, they can apply it to their lives.
Exactly. It's more about doing the holistic aspect. Mind and body affect each other. So we work a lot. A lot of people say, the mind controls the body. Yeah, sure. But also the body controls the mind. So we need to eat properly, do Qigong and Tai Chi and all those wonderful things that you taught me. For people listening, John is my, I'm Dr. John's Blue, former, how do you call that? The little grasshopper. Yeah, a little grasshopper. He taught me all that I know about Qigong, Tai Chi, and TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. So anyway, in the body mind affect each other. So you can do. We need to eat properly. We need to exercise, things like that. But also, we need to heal if we have like really strong traumatic memories or really low sense of self-worth, or like a very distorted self-image, or really strong limiting beliefs. That also we want to take care of that. So it's about both things, which are in reality they're one thing, but in practically we have to kind of, that's one of the things of tools of NLP, is that we separate things as much as we can. We chunk down, we call it. So we can work with these separately, and with these separately, it is all of the same, part of the same thing, but we want to make sure that we work all the sides, so we're as holistic as we can.
Can you give a specific example of what you mean by chunking down and being specific?
Okay, I'm going to give you an example, like of a practice, a clinical or like practice with my clients. I get tons of people for procrastination, and that's such a thing. That's the only thing that we normally see is at the surface. We see, okay, I have people pleasing or procrastination, right? Which is what we can see at the surface behavior. But really, that's rarely the problem, or that's never the problem. I would say almost never, or never really. I have never encountered a person that has a problem with procrastination. It's just a symptom, right? Like when you have a headache. You have a headache and you say, I have a headache, but the headache is not the problem. You can go to the doctor and he can tell you, okay, do this for the headache, but maybe let's talk about like a allopathic Western doctor. You go and he give you a pill for the headache. You take the pill, but that pill is not going to cure your headache. It's only going to numb your headache. As soon as the effect goes away, the headache is still going to be there unless you treat the root cause. Maybe you're dehydrated. Maybe you went out partying too hard and you drank too much beer and you have a headache or wine or whatever. So in order to heal the headache, you have to drink water, plenty of water, give it some time, and then the headache will be done. The same is with procrastination, let's say. Such a simple thing. And I ask people, I have my way to going deep, my own techniques to go deep. And we find that they're perfectionists. So that's why they're procrastinating, because everything they have to do, there are lots of reasons actually that could lead to procrastination. Most of them are insecurities in oneself and perfectionism. Obviously, if I'm insecure about myself, I think I'm not good enough, I don't have what it takes to achieve anything, I'm always, even if at an unconscious level, I'm going to be trying to postpone things because I think I'm going to fail anyway. So let's follow the other example, perfectionist. The person is a perfectionist, so they want to do everything perfect. Everything has to be perfect. So it's overwhelming. They cannot just sit and do something. They have to be absolutely perfect. So it's overwhelming. So they end up postponing things, right? So you would think perfectionism is actually the root cause of procrastination, which it is. But actually, perfectionism itself has a root cause. What made you a perfectionist? You were not born being a perfectionist, were you? Thinking of everything has to be perfect. I cannot, poop my diapers or things like that. So we go and find maybe that the person was really pressure hard to perform when they were kids in school or sports, or they were disappointed or hit or by parents when they didn't do well in schools or sports or whatever. So they learned a strategy of doing everything perfect, because when we're children, we want to be, even as adults, we want to be accepted and loved by everyone around us. But as children, we're much more vulnerable also because our whole world is our parents and our siblings, right? So if a big part of our world is judging us and telling you, you're not good enough, you're not doing well enough, you have to do better, we do everything we can to avoid that judgment. And then the person becomes a perfectionist, right? And then that's the root cause, for example. So then we go and heal that side to get rid of the perfectionism. And when you get rid of the perfectionism, it's much easier. Then we go and fix the procrastination. The procrastination actually disappears by itself normally. So that's the way we do. Exactly, it goes away, and you can apply these to addictions, to people pleasing, to things like that. We always actually, that's something that I want to say. This is it just came to my mind. I was on a podcast the other day with a client of mine, and he told me, it was a great comment that I had never heard. He said, like, I'm really surprised about how holistically you do NLP, your practice. You don't work on one thing; you really treat the whole thing. And I told him that actually this is because I learned TCM. Because I learned TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, I learned to see the human body mind and focus on the whole thing as a holistic, on the root causes of things. Behaviors don't happen just by themselves. They have a root, they have a driver, right?
That's right.
So I want to go fix. So yeah, I have that to thank to you because you taught me TCM. So all those years that we practice, I learned to see it just changed the way I see the world and the human body and mind. So when you apply these to NLP, you get with the same kind of holistic way of doing things.
Yeah, it changes their whole lives because you're treating the deeper aspects of their nature, and then all of it's like working with the soil in a garden, and then pretty soon everything is getting better because you're not just trying to fix the petals on something, you're actually treating the literal root cause.
Yeah. It's a great metaphor. Exactly. I like it.
That's fun. And so even within all of this, as you've gotten better and better at treating the whole person, you've still developed even closer specialties. And so before I dig into more specific methods that we could use within Qigong or how we see the body mind, I'm curious to know more about the specific specialty you developed and the kinds of changes you've seen in people and how you feel like that is, if that's available for everybody, or there's only certain kinds of people that can heal from trauma, for instance, or other kinds of processes that you've been focusing on.
Okay. Yes. So it's available for everyone. I only work with people that are ready to acknowledge that change needs to be done. There are lots of people that say, no, I can do the whole thing. I don't. I have limited time and limited energy. I want to focus on the people that say, I'm ready for change. That doesn't mean that they have to know what's going on with them. That's part of my specialty that I explore and find out what's going on with them. But yeah, I don't work with people that are there, for example, because their parents told them or their husband told them, you need to go see him or something like that. I just don't work with those people because it's a waste of time. If they want to be there, absolutely. But if they don't really want to be there, that's or I have worked with a few people that tell me, no, I'm perfect, I'm great, and it's just everyone else in the world is terrible, but I'm amazing. So that sort of people, there are therapists, there are lots of people, counselors that can help them first have that awareness. I could do it, but I don't have the patience in that sense. I have all the patience in the world for the clients that are ready, but just not my cup of tea. So, yeah. And my specialties are really, everything goes back to identity, really. It's just the roots, right? Identity, who I think I am. And it's not about, a lot of people think it's about adding things, like I have to learn more, I have to become more, I have to be bigger or something like that. It's very Taoist, actually. Is less. You just have to take away all the mud that's stuck on you and just you wash yourself away of all those things. We were not born thinking the world is dangerous or that we're not good enough, or with people pleasing attitudes, or thinking, what does that person think about me, or feeling unworthy or worthless or things like that. We were born completely okay with ourselves. We wanted something, we wanted food, we cried for it, right? We saw a shiny object and we went and checking it out, right? The other day I was in a park and a little girl just ran to me and she held my hand. And I was like, well, hello. And she was so cute. And her mom came running behind her. I'm sorry. No, she's completely fine, And that's the example of how we're as children. She didn't think, am I good enough? Or should I do this? What do other people think about me? Or what is that man thinking about me? She just went and do it. We are all born like that. At some point in our lives, we go through difficulties. Could be abandonment, could be abuse, could be trauma, could be being told that we're not enough, or it could be actually simple things like moving too much from state to state, from school to school, and having always to fit in with new people at new schools when we're young. That can create a lot of these problems. Very simple things could actually cause it. But at some point, we're all presented with difficulties. And that's when we start distorting our sense of identity, who we think we are. So my specialty is, let's say, repairing that sense of identity, or going back. Is not really becoming something amazing. It's actually going back more like getting rid of all those things until you go back more like when you were born, like a more natural state of well-being.
I love that. And so instead of adding, you're taking away. In the Tao Te Ching, that Taoist book, there's always this statement about the path of knowledge, we're gaining something a little every day, but the path of wisdom is we actually lose something every day as we return to being like a child. And or to use that gardening metaphor, maybe you're pruning or pulling weeds. You're making space so that something can blossom more on its own, making room for it.
Exactly. And it's a natural process. You see it's right. Because for example, I'm going to give you an example. I work with a lot of people with addictions, and I never touch the substance. I never told them, do these, or we're going to set up this plan, or Never do that. Why would I do that? I know the substance is not the problem. It's just a symptom. It's just a coping mechanism or escape for the difficulties they're having. So I work with themselves, with the sense of identity, who they think they are. I heal their traumas, work on that imprinting that we're giving when they were children, that made them see the world as terrible. I work with the limiting beliefs and not being good enough and worthy. We start creating new stuff like modeling after the right attitudes, the right models and things like that. And there's always a moment when they tell me, well, you know, what, Guillermo? I haven't told you, but I haven't done that substance or that behavior in 3 weeks. And I said, like, really? Wow, that's fantastic. Why didn't you tell me? And they say, well, I just wanted to make sure that I was not going to go back, but it just really doesn't fit who I am anymore. It's just like, why would I do that? Like, it just doesn't fit with who I am. I don't want to do it. I don't feel the drive. So that's how it is. You don't do anything even with the substance. It just falls by itself, because why would they do that? They're a new person. They don't need those behaviors or attitudes, in their lives anymore.
I love that.
It's very natural.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. So much of our behavior and so many of our choices that we make, and even the ideas that we carry about ourselves, are completely tied up within the identity, whether it's a group identity or some other label that we put on ourselves. Right now in the States, and in a lot of places around the world, of course, there's a lot of this infighting, maybe between politics or within religion or within ethnic groups or these different things. And so much of it has to do with this identity. I am part of this group. I label myself as part of this group. Therefore, I believe these things, that these people are bad, these people are good. This is supposed to be this way. And the second that you are able to help remove them from that group identity, you get free of thinking themselves as part of some, this cult or this divisive idea, then suddenly they become more themselves. They're more people. They're able to see other people as human. They're able to see themselves in a different light. And all they did was get free from that. And it's such a healing thing.
Yeah, and the problem with those ideas, beliefs about the world and other people, and most importantly about oneself, is that they become self-fulfilling prophecies. It's always a feedback loop, exactly the same as in TCM. When you go towards health, it reinforces itself. When you go towards disease, it reinforces itself. It's exactly the same here. If I think everyone's out to get me, I go out with that attitude, with that energy, with that body language, and everyone's going to react to that. It's going to be angry. It's going to be, get out to get me. And I'm going to reinforce that belief that everyone's out to get me. So the more, prevented and arm's length I'm going to be, right? The same if I think I'm not good enough, I'm always going to be doubting myself, never speaking up, always maybe go on a date and feel really self-conscious. And they're going to be like, well, maybe he's not that fun to be around. So they're going to say, well, thank you, but I'm not going to go out with you again. And that's going to reinforce my belief that I'm not good enough.
Right.
And then I'm going to be even more insecure next time that I go out. So when I changed my beliefs to I'm good enough, I'm worthy, I deserve people, when I really believed it, not that I try to repeat, there's a different topic. I'll talk about that later. I'm not much into visualization or affirmations. They're okay, but they're not very powerful as people think. At least not until you have to really, really believe it. And this is something you don't have to even repeat. You just know that you're worthy and good enough, that you have to do the work at a deep level. And when you really believe that, you go out and you're yourself, and you're fun, or you're deep, or you're relaxed, but you're being spontaneous and you like yourself. You're not trying to impress anyone or feel self-conscious. You're just being yourself, and people like being around people that are relaxed and that feel confident and relaxed. And so they're going to have a good time, and they're going to say, yeah, let's go out again. And that's going to reinforce my belief that I'm good enough and worthy and I deserve love and all those things. So it's always like a feedback loop.
So I know that people are going to want to know, because a number of the people that watch my channel are themselves practitioners of various kinds of arts, and teachers and coaches and acupuncturists, and that's just the crowd that tends to watch my channel. And so I know that people will want to know how they can get in touch with you, or because I know that you also coach practitioners about how to add these kinds of skills to their own practice. And if not, if you're going to be too busy, because I know that you have a packed schedule these days, everybody wants to work with Memo. If there's a recommendation of a place where they can start looking into these things themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. They can reach out to me. You can visit my website, Big Tree Coaching, as in a big tree in the forest, and coaching, bigtreecoaching.com.
I'll put all the links down below.
Oh, good. Yeah. And then they can send me, there's a contact form there, or they can send me an email to my email, mastercoach@bigtreecoaching.com. So you can put it down there also. I do offer training, and it's a very complete training. Training NLP is a disaster normally. I have trained so many people that are already master practitioners. They took the practitioner and master practitioner. They didn't learn anything. They tell me, Guillermo, I don't know. I spent so much money. I spent 2 years of my life, or a year and a half, or whatever. I don't know how to do a session. I have no idea. I don't have any practical tools. So I have to train them from scratch. It's incredible. It's incredible. So what I do is that I teach first experientially. I do the tools on the person, and then we go sit down, and I have a manual, obviously, where everything is detailed step by step, like a cooking recipe, so people can do it much easier later. And there are videos, supporting videos and things like that. But the main thing is the manual. So I teach experientially. So they get the benefits on themselves, right? And second, they learn, they have those insights of how this works, right? And then we review what we did and learned it. So I teach experientially. I teach one-on-one. I cannot have it's much better for business to have a group of people, but they're not going to learn very well. I want to create really good coaches that are as effective as me. So I teach one-on-one. And yeah, so the one thing is that, I teach everything. When I teach, I don't do little classes to do one tool. If they want to become a coach. It's a 7-month training program. So by the end of the coaching program, they know how to deal with traumatic memories, limiting beliefs, addictions, procrastination, people pleasing, you name it.
I love that.
Yeah, it's complete. I don't believe in half knowledge, as you know. And also it's all deep work. I don't do motivation. I don't do inspiration. Those things are so overrated. They're important. There are a few people that can benefit from them. Most of the people, you motivate them and inspire them, they get like, yay, 1-2 days, and the first challenge, they go down again. You really need to go down and do the deep work that for someone to change. When they change and they're feeling great and good enough and worthy and things like that, you can apply some motivation and inspiration, and they're gonna see, fantastic, let's do it, because they are already a new person. But most of the people don't need that, and it's being overused right now because people don't have better tools. They have the best intentions, but they don't have really practical tools. So that's what I love about NLP. That gives you practical tools. Someone comes with traumatic memories, I have a tool for that. Someone comes with beliefs, I have 3 for that. Someone comes from with a really bad brain printing, I have a tool for that. Someone comes with behaviors, I have tool for change behaviors, inner image, and so on. So meta programs, we haven't even talked about that, like personality. We can change personality. Some people still say that personality cannot be changed. That's insane. Obviously, it can be changed. It evolves. We evolve through life, and it changes even when we want to or not. We can change everything. So yeah, if someone wants to work with me to overcome difficulties or challenges, they can work as a client. Obviously, I love receiving new people and working with them. I love what I do. Is just seeing someone coming with loads of words, or like lots of traumatic memories or insecurities, and seeing them bloom in front of my eyes is the best work in the world. Seeing them bloom in front of your eyes and transform, and at the end they're feeling fantastic, and it's not a hype thing that is 1 week. It's just that's who they are, and they keep sending me messages about how they're now married or have a business or whatever. It's fantastic. It's just incredible. As a coach, I do receive clients, and I have coaches. If I ever am too busy, I also have coaches that work for me, so they could, I'll always find someone that can work with them. Sometimes I do have the sessions, and sometimes have a coach. There are different arrangements. And if they want to train and become a certified NLP practitioner and coach, they can also contact me. I have trained lots of people, including just people that have nothing to do with this area, but want to go towards working with mental health and healing. And I've also trained lots of counselors and certified therapists, things like that. So a lot of people are also looking for these types of practical tools, which is really, really great.
I think it's wonderful. Yeah, one of the most useful things for me initially about coming to understand how this works is that it gives you a wonderful and very immediately practical map about how the mind works. What are emotions? Why am I acting this way? What is a personality? Because you and I have both changed so much over the years. And one of the things that I love about the work that you do is that when you're working with a coach, they go through the process, because how can they do the work unless they've done the work inside? And because it's not always, or maybe it's less that what you do makes the difference. It's less about the tool, and it's more about who you are that heals, because you are creating a space within which things work in a certain way. And the person then learns more easily from someone who's done the work, and they themselves start to mirror and heal that deep imbalance within themselves that has already been healed within you. And it's hard to learn that from somebody who hasn't done that work themselves. And so maybe the people who have been trying to learn these methods and they can't quite get it, either they don't understand it or they certainly can't apply it very well, it's perhaps because that is still broken inside them, or they still are holding some toxic idea that's obstructing the way that they're seeing themselves and the world and the clients that they're working with. And so the actual message that's being delivered to the clients is not what they think it is. And so the fact that you take the time to really help them heal and disentangle, and then to take that health that they've cultivated and take it into a clinical space or wherever they're working, maybe they're car salesmen, and they're helping someone heal and be a little less afraid of their process. It's because they themselves have healed that aspect of their own nature, and it makes it easier for other people to behave in a way that's more authentic to themselves. And I just think that's fantastic.
Exactly. A lot of coaches also have like insecurities. They call it imposter syndrome or things like that, because they think they have to be amazing. They say, I have to be amazing to lead other people. That's not like that at all. You don't have to be amazing. It's not about you. I'm always saying the same things to people. Coaching is not about you. It's about the client. It's about the persons that is in front of you. It's not about you. If they feel the need to be amazing, it's because they don't have the right tools. So one of the things I completely agree with what you said. We have to lead by example. It doesn't mean that your coach cannot have personal problems. We all have them.
Mm-hmm.
And we all go up and down in life. But, if someone has really low self-worth and maybe is coaching you or having lots of insecurities, maybe that person really hasn't worked that much on themselves, or they haven't found the tools that work. A lot of people work on themselves like I did for decades, but really didn't work, right? Until I found these tools. So you don't have to be amazing. That's what I always tell people. You have to have the right tools. That's it. It's about the tools. If you want to build a house, you need the hammer, you need the saw, you need some things, right? Mm-hmm. It's the same here. We're going to help someone transform. Well, we need the tools for that. It's not about you or how amazing you are. It's about your tools. Mm-hmm.
I love that. Yeah. And you already practiced building the house by building your own house. You have your own stable space within which now can act as a workshop for other people. Or in the very least, they can come into your house and go, wow, this is pretty nice. Oh, you have a ceiling? Maybe I want a ceiling. Or I guess for some people, it's more like they need a door. They don't even have doors yet. I love that. Yeah, I think that's really helpful. One of the most common limiting beliefs that I've heard from people just within our community, and as you know, as we worked with lots of people over the years, that people have a great difficulty finding the time to practice or motivating themselves to do the work, even if they love it. I'll see somebody walking around town and they'll say, oh yes, that period of time that we were practicing get together. And when I was doing the practice every day, I felt so good and never been better. But I haven't done it now in 6 months. Well, why? I don't know. I can't get myself to do it. And I'm curious to know about your take on that, since that's such a common experience for people.
That's a great question. I love it. If people are having to use force of will to do something, it's not working. So a lot of people have this thing like with procrastination or with going to the gym. A lot of people want to go to the gym or with doing Tai Chi or Qigong, which is the type of practices that we do. People think that they have to use force of will, that's how you do it. It's not like that. If you're using force of will, is because there's something inside that is creating lots of resistance, right? Obviously we would have to find what is, right? The beliefs, attitudes, again, meta programs or whatever it is. To give you an example, I'm going to give you a quick example. It's not about Qigong particularly, but I worked with this like a week ago, so it's really fresh in my mind. I worked with a guy that, I worked with him back like 2 years ago, and he came back and said he wanted to work, and he was really out of shape, and he was really trying to go to the gym and doing some classes and like kickboxing or something different, but he just couldn't do it. And we work and work and work. Not work. Within the same session, we talked and talked until we found that he just had a belief, but it was non-conscious. It was what we call deep structure. He didn't know he had that belief yet until I led him to bring it to surface structure, that for him, in order for him to get in shape, it was exhausting. That was a belief that he had, that getting in shape was exhausting. So that was one thing, for example. So we work on that because I actually told him the perspective of TCM, that he was going way too hard on exercise, that he was leaving himself exhausting. He was losing all his energy, that was not. And actually even the Western science says that like high intensity exercise is really bad for the body. That has been known for decades. So I told him this perspective, and then we work on that belief, and it was much easier for him now to have, when that belief was out of the way and a new belief was created, that exercising light is fun. And it was much easier for him. I told him also, don't focus on that goal of losing weight or being in shape. Focus on gaining health and just enjoying the process. And it was so much easier. So obviously, if people are like having to have force of will or something like that, it could be difficult for them. Or maybe there's just they feel really good, but their old patterns are going to kick in, right? Old patterns maybe of limiting beliefs or not feeling worthy or things like that. And those are always going to have friction and conflict with the new practices when they feel great. Because if a lot of people feel not, for example, a lot of people feel really guilty when they're making money, right? And so they tend to self-sabotage themselves because they grew up in conditions when they were, everyone was judging people with money. So they feel guilty. So at some point, they're always going to self-sabotage their businesses and things like that. If they have limiting beliefs about themselves, right? Like, I'm not good enough, or I'm good for nothing, or something like that. And they finally feel, they're starting to feel fantastic and things like that. But identity is so much more stronger than environment and than behavior. There's some levels, like a roadmap for that, and identity is always going to trump, always. So their identity at some point, after a while, is going to trump, and they're going to go back to their old habits and ways of being, and he's gonna win against the practices, because practices are a much more superficial level. Identity is always much more deeper.
That makes a lot of sense. And so when you're saying superficial, you mean that we can say, oh, I want to do this, but then deeper than that, we have an idea that maybe I don't want to do that. And then deeper than that, we have another level of who I think I am. And so by deep and superficial, you just mean that one is less effective. It's less, it actually has less meaning to you.
Correct. Right? Exactly. You put it perfectly. It's a metaphor. Obviously, there's no real depth, but it's a metaphor. But it's exactly that. There are some levels of change. When you want to change, there are things that are going to be so much stronger than others. You worded perfectly. And identity is normally at the very top. Or at the very depth. Depends on how you
keep changing the metaphor.
I'm seeing it in my mind right now, the model, but it's using the depth metaphor, identity would be at the very depth, the base, like what's stronger, right?
That makes sense. Yeah, it's hard for people, I think, that if they've never heard of this before and they're going, well, what do you mean by levels? what is this identity thing? Oh, I call myself John. Isn't that who I am? And we have those ideas. And I love the way you're talking about how you're clearing away rather than trying to squeeze yourself and squeeze your mind and use force and exhaust ourselves to try to be something. Instead, you're removing the things that stop you from doing that in the first place. So you don't have to squeeze yourself into it. Like if I'm trying to learn to breathe, it's not so great for you to force your breath all the time. It's exhausting. You can't keep it up and it doesn't change our respiratory pattern. But if I learn how to release all of the things that are restricting the breath in the first place, the things that are constricting my breath, then not only am I feeling more relaxed, but suddenly the breath fills in that empty space that I left effortlessly. And the same thing with the mind, that if I want to meditate and I want to place my mind here, like the cup of tea, if I have all of these forces pushing on it all the time, then I sort of have to hold my mind in place. I need to focus, and you're squeezing, and it's exhausting. And of course, it doesn't work. And now you've created even more negative patterns because you've been clenching the fist of your mind for 40 minutes or however long you've been meditating. But if instead all you do is release all of the agitation and release all of the forces trying to push you all over the place, then your mind just settles and rests there.
Even if it doesn't settle, you can sit there completely content with yourself, happy with yourself. You can accepting the world as it is, accepting yourself as it is, and completely relax in the moment. You can see your mind doing things and you're like, I couldn't care less. I couldn't care less, and it just you stay in that kind of stillness, even with the mind running. So exactly. Or sleep is another example. A lot of people, when we can't sleep, we try to sleep. I'm gonna try harder and try harder. The harder you try, the less you're gonna sleep. Sleep is a process where you just relax and relax and relax. So what you want to do is to get away from stress, right? Like release that stress. It's very Taoist. It's always just less and less and less. It's more getting rid of all the things that are not natural.
So is this more Taoist quality about doing less and becoming more free, is that inherent to NLP, do you think, or is that more your flavor of it?
No, that's my flavor. NLP is a set of tools. A lot of people, when I started, I have to see, when I started, I didn't, I was also a beginner. I was doing things like most of the people that train NLP, very straightforward, going to the symptom and things like that. And I just started noticing, sometimes things work better. Sometimes these things are much easier. Sometimes it has, friction. So I started noticing patterns and created my own system. The tools I didn't create, they're created by amazingly brilliant people, but I did create my own system where I know that some things work better when you have done other things. So that's my flavor. There are lots of practitioners out there. A lot of them are not very well qualified and things like that. And a lot of them are going to do NLP it's just a set of tools. I have trained lots of people and they use them in different ways. Some people are, again, therapists. Some people are coaches. I have even done hypnotists, and some people use it. It's just tools, a set of tools. That's what I like. You can give it your own flavoring. But yeah, because I train with you, and we used to meditate every day, practice Qigong, Tai Chi. We really got to these practices deeply. I learned to see the world like that, and I guess I flavor it with non-dual and Taoist way of seeing things, right?
I love that. Well, and I think that's another reason that the people who are watching this channel, if they're going to go to a practitioner, I'm trying to find people that are compatible with the way they're seeing the world, because if they're studying this system, this is likely how they're cultivating themselves anyway. And so you want to find a practitioner that's the right fit. And so maybe if they've gone to other kinds of therapists before where their worldviews conflict, or the way that they, maybe they're trying to get you to really toughen up and squeeze harder and use your willpower, which you see all the time on YouTube and other people teaching that kind of madness, and that didn't quite work for them. Maybe somebody enjoys it. Well, then there are other practitioners that have a different way of looking at it, and so maybe try them, somebody like you. And often I think that that's more helpful if it aligns with the way that they're cultivating anyway. I think that's useful. And so I did have more questions for you. So within this world of Qigong, and people are having difficulty practicing, and your recommendation that if you're trying to force yourself to practice, then something's going wrong. There's a way that they're approaching it that's not quite right. What would be a specific recommendation or a series of recommendations that you might make for them to help heal that imbalance, to make it easier for them to do their actual practice?
Sure. The first thing would be to acquire awareness. Makes it ask oneself, what makes it that I don't want to practice, or what makes it that I really would like to feel like that, but what makes it that I don't do it, right? There's always we don't do behavior randomly. Behavior doesn't happen randomly. There's always a driver, right? The problem is that it may be very deep or covered, like in deep structure, not non-conscious. So it would maybe a little bit hard for them to discover without someone guiding them. But the first thing would be awareness. Really try to think, what makes it that way, that I want to feel good, but I don't practice? Is it that I feel resistance? Is it that I feel uncomfortable? And try to generate that maybe they have a self-image of someone who's like really careless and not good enough, and that has been put there by many decades. And when they start changing again, it feels uncomfortable. It just feels uncomfortable when your self-image and identity is not aligned with what you're doing. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance. Really what it is your values and your practice are not aligned with who you think you are, with your identity. So there's a lot of resistance. So awareness would be the first thing. Now, the fact that you have awareness doesn't mean that you can change. I had a very good awareness of my own issues and problems for decades. I couldn't change them. I looked everywhere until I found these tools and I was able to change them. But it does help having that awareness and at least knowing, okay, this is where I'm stuck. The problem is that I cannot give you a specific example because everyone is different. This work is fun because it's like a private investigation of the mind, right? It's like it's like a puzzle. It's solving puzzles. Every person is a different puzzle. The mind works pretty similar for all of us, but it always has its own unique subtleties. So yeah, it could be different for every person. I would recommend the first thing would be to ask oneself, what makes it that way? What are the things is that resistance coming from? What would happen if I did, for example, a counter example? What would happen if I did practice, right? People are going to say, well, I would feel great, but yes, but that part of you that really doesn't want to practice, what would happen for that part if you did practice? Would it feel like is disappearing? Would it feel would it strike back? Would it feel that is what's going on inside? So try to generate as much consciousness or awareness about it.
I think that's super helpful. Yeah, if I was going to ask somebody in the clinic, if we were going to do a dietary consultation and they were wanting to know more about how they've been eating, what if that's maybe a cause of their illness, or how they should eat differently, the very first thing I would have them do is keep a diet journal for a week, so we can actually learn about what's going on. And usually what happens when people start writing it down is they realize what's been happening because they haven't been paying attention enough to notice. And the second they write it down, oh, there's a clear pattern. Or even within my clinic, I have this giant intake form that's designed to be done over the course of a few days because I want people to marinate in thinking about their health. I want them to go to sleep thinking about it and wake up, oh yeah, you asked about that. And actually, and then they come to realizations themselves. And I just find it so helpful if people can actually feel into how they've been and to take the time to think about it. And then they come, and very often the question itself that they're asking contains the answer. And so if we can help them formulate the right question, then everything else is easy.
Nice. Several day long intake. That sounds really bad for business, but I'm really glad
it is really bad for business.
But that's what I like about you, that you don't care about money. I don't care about money. I focus on giving all the results to my clients, and I know money is just a product. It's a consequence of the good work, and it's going to flow. It's just that's right. Energy. But yeah, it's really bad for business, but really good for consciousness, for awareness. Yeah, remember how we used to have like all those clients that you used to tell them they felt so bad, and you used to tell them, just do this and you're going to be feeling great, and they didn't do it, right? It's because their identity is of that suffering person. Their self-image, their identity is like, they're scared of change. Change is scary for a lot of people, especially when you have been through trauma or to like lots of difficult things in your life. Change is scary, and suddenly they're starting to feel better, and that part of them that had been holding on to that identity of I'm sick and this is what I'm used to is starting to like freak out. So they never do those things. So it could be something similar of when people are feeling better about Qigong, but they just suddenly stop, never do it again, right?
That's super interesting. Yeah, because it challenges who they think they are, and who they think they are includes this illness or that pain or this dissonance in their life. And if those things are going away, that the comfortable ordinary for them is threatened. And because we don't know what's on the other side of that, and we have that fear of the unknown, that fear of freedom, that, oh my gosh, what will come if this isn't here? If I am no longer fighting with my spouse all the time, or if I'm no longer afraid of going on a date or whatever relationship issue that might be there, then what comes next? I don't know what comes next. I'm used to this little cycle. I know what happens in this little cycle.
Exactly.
Gosh, well, I think that's really helpful. So your recommendation then for that very common question is to first cultivate awareness of what might be going on, pay attention, to see if you can notice cycles, to figure out the deeper resistances that they're experiencing, something they can let go of, and then to seek out the right tools to help heal that particular imbalance.
Their sense of identity is always going to support. It's always identity. It's always going to support those illnesses and those views of the world and things like that, right? Because again, it's hard to change. Not only that, a lot of people blame themselves, right? It's just that I cannot do it. I'm lazy. I don't want to change. But it's not that. It's just that their sense of identity is supporting or generating. It's okay with. It's aligned with those illnesses and feeling bad about myself, because again, they maybe have really limiting beliefs about themselves, or they don't feel worthy, or things like, or just a self-image. It could be just not conscious about beliefs, or it could be just an attitude. But it's always supported by who they think they are. Again, so if we shift identity first. It sounds easy, shift identity. There's lots of work that needs to be done to get there, but it's absolutely possible, and it doesn't even take that long. When you shift identity, then kind of the other attitudes of like laziness or eating poorly, or like laziness, like, or eating poorly or things like that, they don't fit much more with who you are now. And now suddenly is nice. It's easy to do Qigong because that's kind of aligned with who I am right now. It's just simple. I mean, it's not like Qigong is too hard or anything like that. And eating healthy is actually easy because it's supporting their identity, supporting those behaviors, right? So again, it's always would be finding awareness and then changing that identity, working with identity. If people can find the tool or find a practitioner that can lead them to that. Mm-hmm.
I love that. Well, I'm hoping that the people listening to this will give you a call, because they might as well go with the coach that actually can help. Because even if you choose not to work with them, you can at least help point them in the right direction. And so that's always really helpful. And one thing that I like to ask everybody that I get to talk to, and especially you, for the people who are coming in who are just starting this path in whatever direction they're going, they're just starting, they're looking on YouTube, they come across an interview, and they're thinking about this process, whether it's going into coaching, trying NLP, or starting Qigong, just moving in this direction. For beginners, what would be one piece of advice that you might recommend?
Mm-hmm. In the world of coaching, you mentioned? Yeah.
Sure, any and all of it, because often if somebody's watching this, they might be moving in this direction in general, including Qigong. Maybe they're studying Chinese medicine. Maybe they want to be an NLP coach. But if they're moving in this realm of healing the inside and beginning to express these practices on the outside, what might be something you'd recommend? Everybody says something different.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna focus on NLP, which is and coaching, which is is my specialty. Because you do Qigong. If it's about Qigong, the answer is super simple. Follow John's blue snake and turtle Qigong. That's simple. Work with him. Take private lessons. He's amazing. I can tell you by experience. But if it's about coaching in general, really, my recommendation is always find someone or a program or something that teaches you practical tools. A lot of the coaching out there is just talking, like what talk therapy is or something like that. It's a little bit different, but it's still talking. You didn't get into your problems talking about them. You're not gonna get out of your problems talking about them, right? You need practical tools. We use something called secondary experience in NLP. NLP can be done conversationally, but my specialty is experiential, and his secondary experience is not like we go to the forest and do things. It's just in your mind. It's secondary experience, but it's really powerful, much more powerful than conversational. So I would recommend find practical tools. That's really it. There's no more than that, and tools that work. This work has to be goal oriented. You cannot build a bridge just hoping, throwing material and hoping it builds itself. You're gonna have tools, and you're gonna have processes, and so it should be exactly the same with this. You have a specific tools with specific goals and a specific process that is going to lead someone towards change. And so it has to be like that, very goal oriented.
That's perfect. That's really helpful. And again, for everybody hunting for these tools, Memo's links are down in the doobly-doo. And I want everybody to reach out at least once, at least to thank him for the huge amount of work that he's done, reaching out into the community. And I've seen him spend his entire life taking care of the community and building it up and healing himself. And this is somebody that you can trust. And so if you're going to work with somebody who's not just there to take advantage of you or boost their own ego, because those people, of course, exist. And often they're putting the most energy and money into marketing themselves and wearing a fancy hat of some kind. And while I have seen Memo wear some fancy hats, I can tell you that his energy actually goes into being his best self and helping people genuinely feel better. And so he gets my full seal of support.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much.
And I really loved getting the chance to chat with you and see your amazing view out there in Costa Rica.
Oh,
so gorgeous.
You're welcome whenever you want to travel again.
Thank you. I don't like to travel.
I know, but you always have a place here.
Thank you. Yeah. My friend, lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It was fun. All right.
And anytime you feel like coming back, we'll get you on and get you to chat more about other amazing things that you've been learning.
I will be back, and next time I will have even more free time.
So. Yes. Hopefully less, because you'd be so busy in the clinic that.
Well, I am busy, but yeah, no, as you know, one has to take care of oneself. I cannot do that. You know, one would have to lead, for example. I cannot be unhealthy and trying to help people be healthy. So at some point, when you know, with my work, I go to periods where I'm so busy, and some periods that are more relaxed. And you know, at some point when I'm too busy, I'm always I have other coaches, so I start like giving you know, sessions to my coaches who are trained and certified by me and who are as effective as me, because that's my commitment. When someone trains with me, they have to be as good as me, and I'm going to support them. That's something that I do, support them for the rest of their life, because I'm not doing this for money. I do charge, but I really want them to be amazing so they can have an impact on people around them. So if they send me a text 1 year later, actually they keep sending me texts, and you know, I'm working with this case and this client, what do you think, or what do we do? They mostly tell me what they're doing because they're well trained and they don't really need me to tell them, but they just tell me excited, like I have this new case and things like that. So anyway, long story short, I have the coaches that I work with are amazing. They're as effective as I am. So at some point when I have too much, when it's overflowing, I just keep them work. And you know, at some point, you know, I'll go back and see you and do Qigong and Tai Chi and have fun. Drink lots of tea. I love that.
More Qigong, Memo. More Qigong.
Yes, more Qigong.
I'm watching you. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Anytime.